Dead CEO returns. Millionaire reclaims lost love after decade-long deception. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to Love Crib, your ultimate destination for all things romance, connection, and heartfelt stories. I'm thrilled to have you here, sharing this amazing journey of exploring love in all its beautiful, complex, and magical forms. Whether you're a hopeless romantic, someone searching for relationship insights, or just love diving into heartwarming content, you're exactly where you need to be. If you're enjoying what you see, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could. Hit that subscribe button to stay connected with our Love Crib community. Drop a like to show some love, support, and motivation. Share this video with someone who might need a little romance in their life. Your support means the world to me and helps us continue creating content that celebrates love, connection, and the beautiful stories that bring us together. In the heart of Manhattan's financial district, Elena Bennett steps out her car, smoothing down her charcoal pencil skirt as she gazes up at the gleaming Everest Technologies Tower. 10 years ago, this building was merely a blueprint, a dream she had shared with her fiancé, Maxwell Everett. Now it stands as a monument to his vision and to her grief. At 32, Elena has become one of the city's most respected architects, channeling her pain into creating spaces that endure. The engagement ring she once wore has been replaced by a sleek watch, a gift from her current fiancé, Thomas Wells, the chief financial officer of Everest Technologies. Their wedding is 3 months away, a fact that should fill her with joy rather than a hollow feeling that has become her constant companion. Ms. Bennett, Mr. Wells is waiting for you in the executive lounge. The receptionist announces, her smile professionally warm. As Elena rides the elevator to the 58th floor, she closes her eyes and allows herself a brief moment to remember. Max's laughter, his obsession with blueberry muffins, the way he would absently trace equations on her skin when they lay in bed at night, his brilliant mind never truly at rest. These memories have faded somewhat over the years, becoming less vivid but no less precious. The doors slide open to reveal Thomas, handsome in his tailored suit, deep in conversation with James Harrington, Max's former business partner and the current CEO of Everest Technologies. James's arm is draped protectively around Olivia Everett, Max's younger sister and now James's wife. "Elena!" Olivia exclaims, breaking away to embrace her. Despite the complicated web of relationships between them, Elena and Olivia have maintained a friendship, bonded by their shared loss. The prodigal architect returns, James says with his trademark charm, though his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. "We were just discussing the charity gala. Everything on track with the venue renovations." Elena nods, professional as always. "We'll be ready for next week's event." Thomas takes her hand, his touch gentle but possessive. "I've been telling everyone my fiancé is a miracle worker." The conversation flows around her, but Elena's attention is caught by a headline scrolling across a news screen on the wall. Reclusive tech investor Daniel Reed to make first public appearance at Innovators Charity Gala. Something about the name sends an unexpected shiver down her spine. 7 days later, Elena stands in the transformed ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria, surveying her work with satisfaction. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the gathered elite of New York society, here to support innovations in medical technology, a cause Max would have championed. Thomas appears at her side, offering a flute of champagne. "To us," he murmurs, and to finally setting a date for the wedding. Elena forces a smile. Thomas has been patient, understanding her need to postpone their wedding twice already. What he doesn't understand, what she can barely admit to herself, is that finalizing their marriage feels like the final betrayal of Max, an admission that he is truly gone forever. Mr. Harrington would like a word. A staff member interrupts, and Thomas excuses himself, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. She doesn't notice the man watching her from across the room until he's nearly upon her. Tall, with precisely trimmed beard that doesn't quite hide a jagged scar along his jawline. He moves with a predator's grace that seems at odds with his elegant attire. "Elena Bennett," he says, his voice a rich baritone that strikes a chord of familiarity she can't place. "The architectural genius behind tonight's transformation. And you are?" she asks, taking his offered hand, unprepared for the jolt of electricity that shoots up her arm at his touch. Daniel Reed. His eyes, an unusual shade of amber, study her with an intensity that makes her skin prickle. I've admired your work for some time, particularly your use of sustainable materials in the Harrison building renovation. Elena's brow furrows slightly. The Harrison project had been her first solo commission after Max's death, a detail not widely publicized. You have a keen eye for architecture, Mr. Reed. I have a keen eye for passion, he counters. It shows in your designs, the way you create spaces that honor the past while embracing the future. Before she can respond, James appears, his expression tightening at the sight of Reed. Daniel, I see you've met our Elena. I wasn't aware you two were acquainted. We weren't, Daniel replies, his gaze never leaving Elena's face. Until now. Something passes between the two men, a current of tension Elena doesn't understand, but instinctively recognizes as dangerous. Elena's practically family, James says, placing a proprietary hand on her shoulder. Her fiancé is my CFO, and she was engaged to my late partner. Maxwell Everett, Daniel finishes. Yes, I'm familiar with the story. The brilliant young CEO whose car went off Cove Road 10 years ago. His eyes narrow slightly. Tragic that his body was never recovered. Elena feels suddenly lightheaded, the champagne glass nearly slipping from her fingers. No one ever mentions that detail in polite conversation anymore. James's smile hardens. Ancient history now. Elena has moved on, haven't you, dear? Before she can answer, Thomas rejoins them, slipping his arm around her waist. Everything all right? You look pale. Fine, she manages, though her heart is racing inexplicably. Mr. Reed was just sharing his interest in architecture. Among other things, Daniel says with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes, I'm particularly interested in restoration, bringing back what was thought to be lost forever. As the evening progresses, Elena finds her gaze repeatedly drawn to Daniel Reed. He moves through the crowd with confident ease, yet stands apart from it, observing rather than participating. Several times, she catches him watching her, his expression unreadable. Later, retrieving her wrap from the coat check, she finds herself alone with him in the deserted hallway. You're uncomfortable around me, he states, not a question but a fact. I find you unsettling, she admits, surprising herself with her honesty. He steps closer, close enough that she can smell his cologne, sandalwood and something else, something achingly familiar. Because I remind you of someone? Her breath catches. I don't know you, Mr. Reed. Don't you? His gaze is penetrating, as if he can see straight through to her soul. Sometimes I think the heart remembers what the mind forgets. Before she can process his cryptic comment, he reaches into his pocket and extends a business card. I'm interested in acquiring certain assets from Everest Technologies. Perhaps you could provide some historical context, things not found in official records. Elena takes the card automatically, her fingers brushing his. I'm not involved with Everest operations, but you were involved with its founder. His voice softens. And I suspect Maxwell Everett told you more than he told anyone else. With that, he turns and walks away, leaving Elena staring after him, the card clutched in her suddenly trembling hand. On it, beneath his name and number, is a small symbol, a constellation of stars forming a pattern she's drawn absently thousands of times over the years. A pattern Max used to trace on her skin when words failed him. The next morning, Elena sits in her home office, staring at her computer screen. She searched every available database, but information on Daniel Reed is suspiciously scarce. A tech investor who emerged in Silicon Valley 8 years ago. No photographs before that time. No background information. No family connections. Just a remarkable series of successful investments and a reputation for brutal business tactics. Her phone buzzes with a text from Thomas. James wants to meet. Says it's important. The Plaza at 7. She confirms the appointment and returns to her investigation, an uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. Opening her desk drawer, she retrieves a small box she hasn't looked at in years. Inside is a journal, Max's journal, filled with his hurried scrawl, equations, and paranoid ramblings from the weeks before his death. At the time, she dismissed his concerns as stress-induced anxiety. Now, with Daniel Reed's words echoing in her mind, she wonders if there might have been something more sinister at play. Max's final entry catches her eye. Jay might be involved. Can't trust anyone. Elena in danger, if I'm right. Evidence in the place where stars align. A chill runs down her spine as she looks again at Reed's business card with its constellation symbol. By evening, her unease has grown into full-blown anxiety. At the plaza, James greets her with his usual charm, but there's a tension around his eyes she's never noticed before. Thomas is running late, he explains, ordering drinks without asking her preference. I wanted a moment alone with you anyway. About Daniel Reed. Elena keeps her expression neutral. What about him? He's dangerous, Elena. James leans forward, lowering his voice. He's been systematically acquiring companies connected to Everest, digging into our past operations. I think he means to destroy what Max built, what I preserved. Why would he do that? Some men just want to watch others burn. James's smile is tight. He asked about you after the gala. Seemed very interested in your connection to Max. Elena takes a careful sip of her martini. I barely spoke with him, but he made an impression. James's eyes are calculating now. Stay away from him, Elena, for your own safety and for Thomas's career. Reed is not what he seems. And what does he seem to be? She challenges. James's phone buzzes before he can respond. He glances at it, frowning. Thomas has been delayed. Corporate emergency. He stands, dropping cash on the table. Think about what I said. And Elena? Maybe it's time to set that wedding date. Thomas deserves certainty. As he walks away, Elena notices a man at the bar watching their interaction. He turns quickly when she looks his way, but not before she recognizes him as one of Reed's security personnel from a gala. She leaves the plaza through a side exit, her mind racing. In the shadows of the adjacent building, a figure steps out, causing her heart to lurch. Ms. Bennett. Daniel Reed's voice is calm, measured. I believe we need to talk. About what? She demands, adrenaline making her voice sharp. About why James Harrington is lying to you. He glances around. But not here. My car's around the corner. Elena takes a step back. I'm not going anywhere with you. 5 minutes, he counters. Then you can walk away, call the police, whatever you feel necessary. But I think you want answers as much as I do. Against her better judgment, Elena follows him to a sleek black car with tinted windows. Inside, Reed hands her a file. 3 weeks before Maxwell Everett's death, $15 million was transferred from Everest Technologies' R&D fund to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, he explains as she flips through the documents. The transfer was authorized by James Harrington, using credentials stolen from Max's personal computer. Elena looks up sharply. That's impossible. James was Max's best friend. And now he's married to Max's sister and running his company. Daniel's voice is brittle. Convenient, isn't it? These could be forgeries, she says, though doubt has already taken root. They could be, he agrees, just like the accident report could be accurate. The same report that concluded a brake failure caused Max's car to go off that cliff, despite the fact that he had the vehicle serviced the day before. Elena's hands begin to shake. Why are you telling me this? What do you want? Justice. The word hangs between them, charged with emotion, and I need your help to get it. Why would I help you? Daniel hesitates, then reaches up to remove something from his eye, a colored contact lens, revealing an eye of startling blue-green beneath. Elena's world tilts on its axis. She knows that heterochromia, one blue-green, one amber, a genetic quirk so rare that Max used a joke it was nature's way of marking him as unique. Because, he says softly, some things are worth coming back from the dead for. The revelation that Daniel Reed is actually Maxwell Everett, her Maxwell, sends Elena's world into chaos. Her initial shock and joy quickly give way to rage and confusion. How could he let her believe he was dead for 10 years? How could he have watched her grieve, move on, build a new life? In the safe house where he takes her, Max explains the truth. After discovering James's embezzlement, he confronted his friend, unaware that James had already arranged his accident. The car crash left Max with severe injuries and temporary amnesia. When his memories began returning, he realized that revealing his survival would put Elena and his sister in danger until he could prove James's crimes. "I watched you from afar," he admits, his voice hollow with regret, "making sure you were safe. I wanted to come to you so many times. But you didn't," Elena says, her voice cold with hurt. "For 10 years, you didn't. At first, I couldn't. Later," he looks away. "Later, I saw you rebuilding your life with Thomas. You seem happy. What right did I have to destroy that?" "That wasn't your decision to make," she counters, tears streaming down her face. "You let me mourn you, Max. You let me bury my heart with your empty casket." Their reunion is interrupted by a call from Olivia, frantic and afraid. "Elena, James has been acting strange since the gala. He's emptied our accounts, and I found a gun in his desk. I'm scared." Max takes the phone. "Olivia, it's me. It's Max." The silence that follows is deafening, then broken by Olivia's disbelieving sob. "This isn't funny, Elena. Listen to my voice, Liv." Max says gently, using his childhood nickname for her. "Remember when you were 7 and fell from the oak tree in our backyard? You were too afraid to tell Mom, so I told her I'd pushed you. She grounded me for a month." Olivia's gasp is audible even to Elena. "Max? How?" "I'll explain everything," he promises. "But right now, you need to get somewhere safe. James knows I'm alive, and he's desperate." After arranging for Olivia to meet them at the safe house, Max turns to find Elena watching him with guarded eyes. "What now?" she asks. "You spent years building a case against James. What's your end game?" Tomorrow night, Everest Technologies is hosting its board meeting. James plans to announce a merger that will allow him to liquidate his assets before disappearing. Max's jaw tightens. "I intend to stop him and reclaim what's mine, including my identity." "And what about Thomas?" Elena asks quietly. "He knows nothing about any of this." Max's expression hardens. "Are you sure? He's James's right hand. It's hard to believe he's innocent. Thomas may be ambitious, but he's not a criminal," Elena defends. "And regardless of what you think of him, I owe him the truth before your grand revelation." Their argument is interrupted by the arrival of Olivia, who launches herself into her brother's arms with a sob. Her reunion with Max is emotional, filled with tears and recriminations, but ultimately healing. As they talk into the night, Olivia reveals that she suspected James for years, but feared she was being paranoid. "He changed after you died," she tells Max, "became controlling, secretive. But I never imagined he was responsible." By morning, they've formed a plan. Olivia will return home, pretending nothing is amiss, while gathering the final evidence they need from James's home office. Elena will meet with Thomas, not to reveal Max's return, but to gauge his knowledge of James's activities. Max watches Elena prepare to leave, his expression conflicted. "Be careful. If he's involved—" "I know how to take care of myself," she interrupts. "I've had 10 years of practice." The unspoken accusation hangs between them as she walks out the door. Elena meets Thomas at their favorite cafe, her engagement ring feeling like a stone weighing down her hand. The guilt of her deception is matched only by her uncertainty about his involvement in James's crimes. "You look tired," Thomas observes, concern evident in his voice. "Is everything all right?" She studies him, this man who has been her support for the past 3 years. "Thomas, what do you know about James's business practices?" His expression shifts subtly. "What do you mean?" "I mean the missing R&D funds, the offshore accounts, the suspicious deals." She keeps her voice calm, watching his reaction carefully. Thomas goes pale. "How do you know about that? Does it matter?" "What matters is whether you knew." He glances around nervously before leaning forward. "Elena, listen to me. I only discovered the discrepancies last month. I've been gathering evidence, but James watches everything I do. Why didn't you go to the police?" "Without proof, it would be my word against his." Thomas runs a hand through his hair, a gesture of genuine distress. And frankly, I was afraid. The more I dig, the more convinced I am that James was involved in Max's death. Elena feels a rush of relief, followed quickly by guilt. Thomas is innocent, another victim in James's web of deception, and she's about to break his heart. There's something you need to know, she begins, but Thomas's phone rings, interrupting her. His expression turns grim as he listens to the caller. I have to go, he says, standing abruptly. James is calling an emergency board meeting for tonight instead of tomorrow. Something spooked him. As Thomas hurries away, Elena calls Max. James has moved up the meeting. Tonight at 7. He knows. Max says grimly, we need to accelerate our plan. Where's Olivia? Still at their house, as far as I know. Get somewhere safe. I'll handle this. No, Elena says firmly. We do this together. I've spent 10 years living with the consequences of your decisions. Max, I won't be sidelined now. There's a pause before he responds, his voice softening. Meet me at Everest in an hour. Side entrance. The tension in the Everest Technologies boardroom is palpable as James Harrington addresses the gathered executives. Elena sits beside Thomas, her heart racing as she waits for Max's entrance. Olivia sits across from them, her face a mask of calm that doesn't reach her eyes. Gentlemen, ladies, James begins. I've called this emergency meeting to announce a significant development. Effective immediately, I am recommending the sale of our cybersecurity division to... The boardroom doors swing open, and Daniel Reed strides in, followed by 2 men in suits who are clearly federal agents. I believe, he says coolly, that any sale requires the approval of the company's founder. James's face contorts with shock, then fury. Security, he shouts, reaching inside his jacket. I wouldn't, one of the agents warns, revealing his badge. FBI, Mr. Harrington. We have some questions about those offshore accounts. The room erupts in confusion. Thomas rises to his feet, staring at Reed with dawning comprehension. Max! James lunges suddenly, grabbing Olivia and pressing a gun to her temple. Nobody moves. The agents draw their weapons as board members dive under the table. Elena freezes, her gaze locked with Max's across the chaos. It's over, James, Max says calmly. The FBI is everything, the embezzlement, the break, tampering, all of it. Nothing's over until I say it is, James snarls, backing toward the door with Olivia. I still have leverage. You have nothing, Olivia says, suddenly calm. The gun isn't loaded, James. I emptied it this morning. In the moment of confusion that follows, Thomas tackles James from behind, sending them both crashing to the floor. The gun skitters away as the agents rush forward to restrain James. You're dead. James spits at Max as he's handcuffed. You're supposed to be dead. Sorry to disappoint, Max replies, helping Thomas to his feet with a nod of grudging respect. As James is led away, the room falls silent, all eyes on a man they thought dead for a decade. Max stands tall, transformed from Daniel Reed back to Maxwell Everett through presence alone. I believe, he says quietly, we have a board meeting to finish. In the aftermath, Max reclaims his legal identity but declines to return as CEO of Everest Technologies, naming Thomas as his choice for position instead, a recognition of the man's integrity in the face of temptation. Elena and Thomas have a painful but honest conversation, ending their engagement with mutual respect and sadness. I always sensed you were still in love with Ghost, Thomas tells her, his smile bittersweet as he removes a ring. I just never expected to have to compete with him in the flesh. You deserve better than half my heart, she admits. 1 month later, Elena stands on the cliff edge where Max's car went over a decade earlier. The ocean crashes below, powerful and eternal. She feels him approach before she hears him. That unexplainable awareness that has only grown stronger since his return. I used to come here, she says without turning, and talk to you, imagining my words were carried out to sea, to wherever you were. Max steps beside her, close but not touching. I spent 10 years becoming someone else, only to realize I'd lost part of me that mattered most. And what part was that? She asks, finally looking at him. The part that knew how to trust, how to love without fear. His mismatched eyes hold hers, the part that was brave enough to choose love over vengeance. And now I'm asking if you can forgive me, he says simply, not just for letting you believe I was dead, but for the decade of choices that kept me from coming back to you sooner. Elena considers his question, the anger she's harbored slowly giving way to understanding. Forgiveness isn't a moment, Max. It's a journey. Then let me walk it with you, he pleads softly, however long it takes. She studies him, the familiar eyes and a face marked by new scars, both visible and hidden. The man she loved and the stranger he became, now merging into someone new. I can't promise you tomorrow, she says finally, but I can promise you today, one day at a time. Max reaches for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she allows him to take it. Together they stand at the edge of the cliff, not looking down at the past that nearly destroyed them, but out toward the horizon and whatever future they might build, one day at a time. 1 year later, a small gathering assembles in the garden of a coastal home overlooking the Pacific. Elena wears a simple white dress, her feet bare on the grass. Beside her stands Max, watching her with wonder as she recites vows that speak not of forever, but the courage to choose each other every day. Olivia stands as Elena's maid of honor, finally healing from her own betrayal. Thomas is present too, now a friend of them both and thriving as Everett CEO. As the sun sets over the ocean, Max slips a ring onto Elena's finger. Not the ostentatious diamond of their first engagement, but a band of twisted silver embedded with tiny stars arranged in a constellation he once traced on her skin. A reminder, he whispers, that even after the darkest night, the stars remain. Elena thinks of the long path that brought them here, death and rebirth, betrayal and forgiveness, endings and beginnings all intertwined. She thinks of the man who returned from the dead, not to seek vengeance, but to reclaim the life and love he'd lost. As they seal their vows with a kiss, cheered on by their small circle of trusted friends, Elena finally allows herself to believe in second chances, not because fate demanded it, but because they fought for it, through deception and truth, through pain and healing, through the long journey back to each other. Their story wasn't one of perfect love, but of love tested, broken, and rebuilt, stronger at the mended places. A love that, like them both, had died and returned, transformed by the journey, but ultimately, undeniably alive.